What if the very organ working day and night to keep you alive was slowly turning against you? What if the foods on your plate, ones you've been told are safe or even healthy, were quietly pushing that organ toward disease? And what if everything you've heard about avoiding liver problems was incomplete or just plain wrong? Hi, I'm Dr. Nana. Today, we're diving deep into the truth about your liver, what's really damaging it, and how to stop the process before it's too late. This is your liver. It's small enough to fit under your ribs, yet powerful enough to carry out over 500 essential functions, from filtering toxins to balancing hormones, from storing energy to helping your body digest fats. But if you don't take care of it, a healthy liver can silently progress to a fatty liver, then to cirrhosis, and finally, liver failure. Years ago, alcohol was the main culprit. Today, most cases of fatty liver aren't from alcohol at all, they're from the foods we eat every single day. I hear it all the time. People are overwhelmed by the endless, conflicting advice about liver health. And while there are countless videos on YouTube covering this topic, most of them are either incomplete or just plain wrong. In this video, I'll give you the full picture so you can protect your liver with confidence. We'll start with what not to eat, clear up the myths, and focus on the facts. The first thing I found in my research was sodium. Many sources say to avoid salt because sodium causes water retention. Now, yes, water follows sodium, but here's the missing detail. That's only true if your body can't regulate sodium in the first place. That happens with certain hormone disorders, specific endocrine tumors, or kidney failure. In those cases, limiting sodium makes sense because the body literally can't process it properly. But for the average person, sodium has little to nothing to do with fatty liver. That recommendation is simply wrong. Next, added sugar. On this one, I agree 100%. Added sugar absolutely drives up liver fat, and we'll go into more detail on why in just a moment. Big green check mark here. Then there's red meat. Many say to avoid it because of its saturated fat content. Yes, red meat is high in saturated fat, but that's not a problem in itself. We'll unpack that in a few minutes. So again, this blanket advice is misleading. And what about fried foods? The common claim is that they're bad because they're high in fat and calories. Here, I give a cautious maybe. Fried foods are often unhealthy not because of the calories, but because of the oils used. Most fried foods are cooked in vegetable oils that are naturally heat sensitive. To make them withstand high temperatures, they're heavily processed, bleached, deodorized, oxidized, turning them toxic. That's the real problem. If you occasionally fried food in a heat-stable fat, like lard or coconut oil, that would be far less harmful. Now, let's clear up a major misconception. You are what you eat. It sounds logical, but it's not quite true. People think that eating saturated fat leads to storing saturated fat in the body. But here's the twist: cows don't eat saturated fat, yet their meat contains it. Why? Because they convert what they eat, mostly grass, into saturated fat through a process called biotransformation. Humans do something similar. We don't eat grass, but when we consume more fuel than we need, especially alongside high insulin levels, our bodies transform that excess energy into saturated fat for storage. This is why studies showing that fatty, insulin-resistant livers are full of saturated fat don't tell the whole story. The saturated fat isn't what caused the insulin resistance, it's the other way around. Too much fuel and too much insulin create the saturated fat in your liver. And when that liver becomes congested, well, that's where we need to go next. We've just learned that too much fuel and too much insulin can create saturated fat inside your liver, not the saturated fat you eat. Now, let's go a step deeper into why this happens, and more importantly, what's actually behind most cases of fatty liver. The real cause can be summed up in one word: overwhelm. When you overload the liver with more work than it's designed to handle, it becomes congested like a city's main freeway during rush hour. And here's the key: not every substance you consume is handled by every cell in your body. Many nutrients and fuels can be processed by muscle cells, fat cells, or other organs without trouble. But some substances, only the liver can process them. And those are the ones that clog the system fast. Let's start with the most obvious one: alcohol. Everyone knows alcohol can damage the liver, which is why it's a regulated substance. It's why we don't give it to children, why there are age limits, and why health guidelines recommend strict moderation. The problem is, alcohol is not the only liver-only burden. The second and far less understood culprit is fructose. Most people have heard sugar is bad. They might picture candy bars, cookies, or soda. But the real reason sugar is so harmful is that about half of it is fructose. Eat 100 grams of sugar, which, believe me, isn't hard to do in a single day, and you've just taken in 50 grams of fructose. And fructose is processed exclusively by the liver. That's like adding truckload after truckload to a warehouse that's already full. Now imagine your liver is already dealing with alcohol and fructose. Along comes the third heavy load, toxins. Everything from environmental chemicals to certain food additives has to be neutralized by the liver. If it's already backed up, those toxins linger longer in your body, causing even more trouble. The fourth factor is insulin. Now, insulin doesn't start fatty liver, but once the liver is already fatty, insulin makes it much worse. Think of insulin as the storage hormone. Its job is to signal your body to hold on to energy. When insulin levels stay high, fat burning inside the liver grinds to a halt. Even worse, high insulin keeps the liver insulin resistant, trapping it in a cycle that's very hard to break. And here's the big takeaway. You cannot reverse the fatty liver if you keep insulin levels high. Once you understand these four main drivers: alcohol, fructose, toxins, and insulin, it becomes much clearer what to avoid. Number 1, of course, is alcohol. That's the obvious one. But number 2 is sugar, and I mean all sugar, both added and natural. People often think added sugar is bad, but natural sugar from fruit is somehow safe. It's not. The difference is simply quantity and concentration. Added sugar, like in soda or baked goods, hits you fast and in large amounts. But if you sit down and eat an entire watermelon, or pile on bananas, mangoes, and pineapple every day, you can easily consume 100 to 200 grams of sugar from fruit alone. Your liver doesn't care if the fructose comes from a candy bar or a mango. Fructose is fructose. A few berries here and there? Fine. But thinking that endless fruit is a health-free pass is a mistake. The third thing to limit is starches. Starches break down into glucose, which raises blood glucose and triggers insulin release. If your liver is healthy and your insulin sensitivity is good, you can handle some starches without harm. But once you've started developing fatty liver, your insulin is already running too high, and starches will keep pushing it up. This includes both natural starches like potatoes or rice and processed starches. Processed starches are worse because the fiber is removed, making them digest faster and spike your blood sugar more sharply. But don't be fooled. White rice versus brown rice, white flour versus whole wheat flour, the difference is minimal when it comes to glucose load. In the end, they're still mostly pure glucose. Then, avoid foods fried in vegetable oils. These plant-based oils, often labeled as vegetable oils, are typically refined, oxidized, and damaged during processing. When they're heated to high temperatures for frying, they become toxic, inflaming and stressing the liver even more. This has nothing to do with the fat amount. It's about the quality and chemical stability of the oil. And finally, a reality check. Some people will say, I eat rice and potatoes and I feel fine. And they might be right, for now. That's because not everyone's liver health is at the same stage. But the fact that you can eat something without immediate symptoms doesn't mean it's harmless. And this leads us directly to the next important point: why some people can tolerate these foods for years while others can't, and what that means for protecting your liver in the long run. As I mentioned before, there's a world of difference between maintaining good health and actually reversing a condition. If you're insulin sensitive and your liver is healthy, you can tolerate a little more flexibility, even some starches here and there without serious harm. But if you're trying to reverse a fatty liver and your insulin levels are already sky high, the rules change. You have to be far more disciplined than someone who's simply trying to maintain their current health. That brings us to whole grains, a food group that somehow makes its way onto nearly every politically correct health list, no matter the topic. But let's ask the real question: are whole grains truly a health food, a superfood even? In most cases, when health authorities promote whole grains, what they really mean is this: it's better than sugar and white bread. And sure, it might be slightly better, but that's a pretty low bar. Sugar and white bread are already among the worst choices you can make for your blood sugar and insulin levels. Being a little better than the worst option doesn't magically make something good for you. Yes, whole grains have some fiber and a bit of protein, but the bulk of what they contain is starch that breaks down rapidly into glucose. That glucose hits your bloodstream quickly, spikes your blood sugar, and sends your insulin soaring, the very cycle you want to avoid if your liver is struggling. To make matters worse, grains are among the most common food allergens in the world. Wheat sensitivity is widespread. Gluten intolerance is common. Even rice and oats can trigger issues for some people. So when you add all this up, especially if you're trying to reverse fatty liver, whole grains get a big red X from me. Now, I'll give them a small question mark for one reason. If you don't have a fatty liver, your insulin sensitivity is good, and you tolerate grains without digestive or immune problems, then yes, you might be able to enjoy them occasionally. Just don't fall into the trap of thinking modern wheat, or any grain, is a health-boosting miracle food. And absolutely don't expect it to reverse liver damage. This leads us into the buzzword of the decade, superfoods. The idea sells magazines, drives, clicks, and fills grocery carts. People love the thought that there's one magical food they can add to their diet to fix everything. But here's the problem: the concept itself is misleading. Think about it. If you were being exposed to mercury every single day, is there any vitamin you could take to truly restore your health? Of course not. As long as that toxic exposure continues, your body will keep accumulating damage. A vitamin might help you cope a bit better, but it won't undo the harm until you stop the source of the poison. It's the same with a polluted lake. If all the fish are dying, could you just dump in a vitamin or antioxidant and expect them to spring back to life? No. If the pollutants keep pouring in, nothing you add will fix the root problem. When we talk about superfoods as if they're magic bullets, we miss the bigger picture. We're treating them like medications, a single remedy for a single symptom. That thinking comes from decades of conditioning in the allopathic model. If you have a symptom, you take something to make it go away. And yes, that can create relief, but it doesn't necessarily restore true health. If we want real, lasting improvement, especially for something like fatty liver, we have to address the causes, not just throw a so-called superfood at the problem. And that's exactly what we're going to break down next. As we discussed before, when a symptom appears, it's not random, it's the body's signal that something is either missing or something is interfering. If all we do is take a remedy that blocks that signal, we might feel better for the moment, but we haven't actually fixed anything. Think of it this way. The relief is temporary because the underlying dysfunction is still there. The damage continues silently in the background. We didn't add what was missing. We didn't remove what was causing the problem. We simply muted the body's warning system. This is exactly why the concept of a superfood is misleading. Whether we're talking about a nagging symptom or a serious issue like fatty liver, we can't just sprinkle in a so-called miracle food and expect everything to heal while the real causes remain. If we keep doing what created the problem in the first place, the damage will go on, no matter what superfood we eat. That's where the holistic model comes in. Instead of chasing symptoms and quick fixes, we identify and handle the root cause. If the body is missing something, we give it what it needs. If something harmful is interfering, we help the body eliminate it. In doing so, we still get relief, but now, we're also restoring function. The body starts working the way it's supposed to, and the symptom disappears because the cause is gone, not because we silenced it. So when we think about nutrition, we need to focus on good foods that support and bad foods that interfere. Forget the superfood marketing hype, it distracts from the real issue. Now, let's move to number 9 on our list, unsaturated fats. You've probably heard it countless times: saturated fat is bad, and saturated fat is good. But as Dr. Nana will tell you, that's not the whole truth. The type and source of the fat make all the difference. The first type of unsaturated fat is monounsaturated fatty acids, MUFA. These are considered macronutrients, meaning we consume enough of them to provide a significant amount of calories. Common sources include extra virgin olive oil and even meat. Many people think meat is entirely saturated fat, but in reality, about half of the fat in meat is monounsaturated, and the other half is saturated. Interestingly, the same ratio exists in the human body. About half of the fat we store is monounsaturated. So far, MUFAs earn a big green check mark as long as they're minimally processed. That's why extra virgin olive oil is so prized. It's the first cold pressing, done with minimal heat and pressure, preserving the oil's natural integrity and preventing damage. The second type of unsaturated fat is polyunsaturated fatty acids, PUFA, and here's where things get tricky. While MUFAs have only one bend in their molecular structure, making them relatively stable, PUFAs have multiple bends. This structure makes them unstable and highly reactive. When manufacturers turn these delicate oils into cooking oils or use them in fried foods and salad dressings, they must process them aggressively, bleaching, deodorizing, and heating them at high temperatures. The result? Oils that are oxidized, toxic, and highly inflammatory. So while mufas from olive oil or meat are beneficial, pufas from heavily processed vegetable oils are a different story. Unfortunately, the common advice to replace butter and other saturated fats with vegetable oil is a nutritional disaster. Making pufas a major calorie source in your diet means you're adding highly oxidized, inflammation-promoting fats that stress your liver and your entire system. That's why this type of unsaturated fat gets a big red X on our list. And now, moving down to number 8, we'll talk about soybeans and other beans, another food group that seems to appear on every healthy eating list. But are they really the nutritional heroes they're made out to be? That's exactly what we're about to unpack next. You've probably seen soybeans and other beans pop up on almost every politically correct health list, often with phrases like may help with blood sugar or is associated with improved insulin sensitivity. But when you dig deeper, those claims often follow the same logic used with white bread. They're saying beans are better than something worse. Sure, beans might be better than refined grains, but that doesn't automatically make them an ideal food for everyone. Here's where it gets tricky. Almost all soybeans grown today are genetically modified. And just as we've discussed with other common allergens, soy ranks near the top of the list. Many people react to it with inflammation and other sensitivities. If that's you, soy can be downright counterproductive. For this reason, soy gets a mixed review from me. Part ? Part red X if you choose to have soy, make it a clean source like organic tofu or miso. And for those who are insulin sensitive and tolerate beans well, enjoying some lentils or other non-soy beans in moderation might be fine. But if you're already dealing with fatty liver and insulin resistance, beans aren't going to turn things around. Next is number 7, oatmeal. It's often praised as a fiber-rich food and lumped into the healthy category without much explanation. Yes, there's some research suggesting oatmeal can help lower cholesterol compared to white bread, but that's a very low bar. If you must have a grain, oatmeal is one of the better options, but it's still mostly starch, breaking down into glucose fairly quickly. Another consideration, many people are gluten sensitive, and unless you buy certified gluten-free oats, you're likely getting trace amounts of gluten in the package. Even with certified oats, there's something called cross-reactivity where your immune system confuses oat proteins with gluten proteins. Once that immune confusion happens, oats can trigger the same type of response. That said, some people tolerate oats just fine. If you do eat them, go for steel-cut oats, which digest slowly and cause a more gradual rise in blood sugar. Avoid instant oats. They're barely better than eating candy. Overall, oats get a red X if you're trying to reverse fatty liver, but they're not the worst choice for otherwise healthy people. Number 6 is coffee. There's quite a bit of research suggesting it may be protective against non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, but notice the wording may be associated with. No clear mechanism is given. That always makes me ask, compared to what? If coffee drinkers are replacing soda or sweet tea with coffee, that alone could explain the benefits. Personally, I'm not against coffee, I drink it myself. I've never found strong evidence it's harmful in moderation. If you have weak adrenals, don't overdo it, but for most people, 1 or 2 cups a day is perfectly fine. Just don't treat it as a superfood that will reverse liver damage. Finally, number 5, walnuts. In my view, walnuts are a solid food choice. They're high in protein and fat, low in carbs, and nutritionally similar to other great nuts like macadamias and pecans. Because they're low carb and high in healthy fats, they can help you feel satisfied, keep insulin lower, and support reversing insulin resistance. That said, walnuts are not a magic bullet. They're part of a healthy pattern, not the one thing that will fix your liver. But they do earn a place on my good foods list, even if I don't put them in the superfood category. And speaking of foods that get a lot of hype, the next one is often celebrated in both the culinary world and health circles, but we're going to take a closer look at whether it truly deserves the praise. Throughout this video, we've talked about how there's no single magic molecule or food that can shield you from disease while you keep doing the things that cause the damage in the first place. That's not how the body works. So while some foods absolutely earn a green check mark for their benefits, more is not always better, and no one food can replace a truly supportive lifestyle. Number 4 on the list is omega-3s. Yes, we've spoken about polyunsaturated fatty acids before, but these are the right ones, the kind your body genuinely needs. Omega-3s are considered essential fats because your body can't make them on its own. But here's the catch. You only need them in small, precise amounts for very specific purposes. One of the best ways to get them is from whole fish or high-quality fish oil supplements. The science here is strong. We have a clear mechanism and decades of evidence showing their anti-inflammatory effects. Omega-3s help address the root causes of many chronic conditions, from fatty liver to cardiovascular disease and the broader group of issues we call metabolic syndrome. For that reason, omega-3s earn a big, undeniable green check mark. But let's clear up a common misconception. Not all omega-3s are created equal. Take flaxseed, for example. Yes, it contains omega-3s, but not the form your body actually uses. The omega-3 in flax is called alpha-linolenic acid, which must be converted into EPA and DHA to be effective. If you're young, healthy, and have low oxidative stress, you might convert a decent amount. But if you already have insulin resistance, inflammation, or liver issues, the people who need omega-3s the most, your conversion rate is poor. That means flax isn't a reliable source for those essential fats. Personally, I still enjoy flax seeds for taste and texture. I'll grind them and sprinkle them over yogurt with chia seeds. But I don't rely on them for my omega-3 intake, and I don't treat them like a superfood. Think of these specific omega-3s EPA and DHA as micronutrients, like vitamins or minerals, not as a fuel source. They're building blocks for cell membranes, hormone precursors, and other vital processes. Good sources? Wild-caught fatty fish, high-quality eggs, or a reputable supplement. If you can't get enough fish or pastured eggs in your diet, supplementation is worth considering. Number 3 is cruciferous vegetables. The name cruciferous comes from the cross-like shape of their flowers, and this plant family is loaded with unique phytonutrients that support the liver's detoxification pathways. These compounds act almost like the liver's cleaning crew, helping it break down and remove waste products more efficiently. Examples include arugula, bok choy, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, kale, and even rutabaga. Most of these can be enjoyed in generous amounts if you tolerate them well. The only one I'd slightly limit is rutabaga, being a root vegetable. It has a bit more starch, though it's digested slowly. If your goal is to reverse a condition like fatty liver, you might go lighter on the starchy members of this family. One note of caution: just because a food is generally healthy doesn't mean it's right for you. Some people have sensitivities to certain cruciferous vegetables, and if that's the case, forcing them into your diet will do more harm than good. Number 2 is meat. I'll say it, this belongs on the list, even though it rarely makes mainstream healthy food articles. And no, I still wouldn't call it a superfood, but it's probably as close as we get. Meat is nutrient-dense, satisfying, and loaded with high-quality protein. So why the resistance to including it? 2 words: saturated fat. We've been conditioned to fear it, but that fear is misplaced, especially when insulin levels are under control. Meat contains a balance of stable fats, both saturated and monounsaturated, which makes it a reliable and non-inflammatory energy source. There's another huge benefit. Meat, especially red meat, is one of the least allergenic foods you can eat. That's one reason why carnivore-style diets have become popular for people with multiple food sensitivities. It's simply easier to tolerate. Nutritionally, meat is rich in methionine, a sulfur-containing amino acid your body uses to produce glutathione, your most powerful antioxidant. This supports detoxification, protects cells, and promotes repair. For those working to restore liver health, that's an enormous advantage. And finally, number 1, eggs. This is the food that tops my list, yet it's strangely absent from most healthy food lists, largely because of misplaced fears about cholesterol and fat. The truth? Eggs are one of the most complete and beneficial foods you can eat. They're a powerhouse of nutrients, offering many of the same benefits as meat plus something extra, choline. This nutrient acts like a catalyst for fat metabolism, helping your body burn liver fat more efficiently. That alone makes eggs a standout for anyone targeting fatty liver reversal. Eggs are also rich in vitamins B6, B9, and B12, nutrients that work together to convert homocysteine, an inflammatory byproduct, into methionine. And as we just covered, methionine feeds into glutathione production, further boosting your body's antioxidant defense. Pastured eggs, in particular, can be significantly higher in EPA and DHA, the same essential omega-3s we discussed earlier. With good quality eggs, you can sometimes get your entire daily requirement of these fats without touching a supplement. Eggs are, quite simply, one of the most versatile, affordable, and impactful foods for overall health. And for supporting a healthy liver, they deserve a huge green check mark. So there you have it, my top picks for truly supportive foods, stripped of the superfood hype and backed by how your body actually works. If you've followed along from start to finish, you now understand not just what to eat, but why it works and how to avoid falling for marketing claims that miss the root cause of disease. If this video helped you see your health in a new light, I invite you to take the next step. Hit the like button, subscribe to Senior Health Boost, and turn on all notifications so you never miss the practical, life-saving information we share here. Remember, your health isn't built on a single miracle food. It's built, meal by meal, habit by habit, on choices that truly support your body. Let's keep making those choices together.